Hare Krishna. In the previous shloka, Krishna had called lust as Mahashano, Mahapapma and Nityavari. Mahashano means which never gets satisfied. Mahapapma, it means very sinful. And Nityavari means eternal enemy. Now it's very important for us to know that when Krishna has called lust as Nityavari or eternal enemy, then definitely we must know the reason behind it. And the reason for Krishna to call lust as Nityavari is because this lust covers the intelligence of the person. And as a result, the person thinks himself to be this body and does all the efforts to satisfy his body through his senses, which traps the person in the continuous process of birth and death. This is why Krishna calls lust as Nityavari, and we should give importance to every word of Krishna because it is for our own benefit. Now in today's shloka, Krishna is telling us the places in our body where this eternal enemy, lust, it resides. First, let us recite the shlok number 40 of chapter number 3, Karma Yoga. Indriyani manobuddhi asya dhishtanamuchyate etair vimhoyatyesh jnanamavritya dehinam. Indriyani manobuddhi asya dhishtanamuchyate etair vimohyatyesh jnanamavritya dehinam. Indriya means the senses. Manah means the mind. Buddhi means the intelligence. Adhishthan means sitting place. And asya means lust. It means that these are the three sitting places of lust. Now further Krishna is saying Dehinam Vimohyatyesh, which means the embodied soul gets bewildered. How does it get bewildered? Jnanamavritya, because the intelligence of the living entity is covered, and as a result of it, the embodied soul is not interested in the spiritual progress. Rather, it is only interested in sense enjoyment, which keeps the living entity in the endless cycle of birth and death. Now we understand that how dangerous this lust is, and this is why Krishna calls this lust as Nityavari, an eternal enemy. Now first let us read Srila Prabhupada's purport. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnavon ki jai. Srila Prabhupada says that this enemy has captured different strategic positions in the body of the conditioned soul, and therefore Lord Krishna is giving hints to those places so that one who wants to conquer the enemy may know where can be this enemy found. Prabhupada says that mind is the center of all the activities of the senses. The senses are eyes, nose, ears, tongue, and the skin. Thus, the mind is the reservoir of all ideas of sense gratification. Sense gratification means sense enjoyment. And as a result, the mind and the senses become the repositories of lust. Repositories means storehouse. Now next, what happens? The intelligence department, it becomes the capital of such lustful ideas, propensities. Intelligence is the immediate next door neighbor of the spirit soul, and the lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego and identify itself with matter, and thus with the mind and senses. The individual soul thinks itself to be the matter. Now here it's important to know that the lusty intelligence, it inspires, it influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego. False ego means when we understand and believe that we are this body, and we want to enjoy through the senses, and we want to enjoy everything and satisfy our physical body. This is known as false ego. And the real ego is that I am Nitya Krishna Das, eternal servant of Krishna, because I am a part of Krishna, and the part should always serve the whole. Krishna is Poon, he is Vibhu, and we are a part of him. Like in our body, hands and legs and eyes and ears, everything is the part of the body. So everything is constantly serving the whole body. So it's our duty to serve Krishna. This is known as real ego. But when the intelligence is covered by lust, it influences the spirit soul that it is the material body. And then it also thinks and it gets addicted to all the material enjoyments. The spirit soul becomes addicted to enjoying the material senses and mistakes this as true happiness. Srila Prabhupada says that the material senses and this material world are never meant to give us true happiness, because it is temporary in nature and spirit soul is eternal as Krishna. But when the spirit soul gets influenced by the lusty intelligence, it starts thinking that this material enjoyment is giving the true happiness. Now this false identification of the spirit soul is very nicely explained in Srimad Bhagwatam. Yasyatma buddhi गुणपेत्र धातु के स्वधि कलत्र दादिषु भौम इज्जधि यतीर्थ बुद्धि सलिले न करहि चिज जनेश भिज्ञेषु स एव गोखरः. In Srimad Bhagwatam, it is clearly stated that a human being who identifies this body, which is made of 3 elements, and these 3 elements are Kapha, Vayu and Pitta, with his own self, and who considers the byproducts of the body to be his own people, his kinsmen, who considers the land of birth as worshipable, means the land where this body has appeared, he considered it to be worshipable, and who goes to the place of pilgrimage simply to take bath rather than to meet men of transcendental knowledge there. These people who consider the body to be themselves, the body which is made of 3 elements, Kapha, Vayu and Pitta, and who consider the byproduct of the body to be their own people, and who consider the land of their birth where their body has appeared as worshipable, and those who go to the pilgrimage, that is dham, simply to take bath and not to meet the high realized souls, to take advantage so that one may grow in bhakti. These people are to be considered as an ass or a cow. This has been clearly stated in Srimad Bhagwatam. Now let us understand it one by one. First, let's start with mind. Mind is the reservoir of all senses, and mind does not have any intelligence of its own. It sees or listens about, or tastes or feels and smells in the surroundings. Mind wants to have it because it feels that it will give happiness to him. For example, when the mind sees or listens about any car, mobile, or maybe dresses, or any food item which is very tempting like chaat or momos, etc., etc., then immediately the mind wants to enjoy it through the senses. And why does this happen? It happens because the intelligence, which is a higher authority, gets covered by lust, and Atma or the living entity is bewildered. So the living entity, which is a part of Krishna, which has nothing to do with anything in this material world, starts identifying with this material world and thinks of doing all kinds of sense gratification, and is not at all interested in spiritual progress, which is the only aim for every human being. Srila Prabhupada says that this rare human body is only meant for self-realization and God-realization. But when the senses, mind, intelligence gets covered by lust, then the living entity gets addicted to sense gratification, thinking it to be a part of this material world, and then the embodied soul is trapped in the endless cycle of birth and death. We all need to understand it very seriously because Krishna is giving us the hint where our eternal enemy resides. And Krishna is giving us this hint because he wants us to conquer this dangerous enemy which never lets us get liberated from this temporary material world. We all know by now that how Arjun was bewildered because he thought himself to be the body and thought all the people with whom he had bodily relations to be his own people, his kinsmen, and the thought of losing them completely bewildered him, and he was in the most pathetic condition where he was unable to discharge his duties. But after listening to Bhagwat Gita from Krishna, the same Arjun who was unable to stand on his feet fought very bravely only for the happiness of Krishna and became one of the greatest heroes in our history. This is the power of Bhagavad Gita because every word has been spoken by Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada says that if we employ all our senses in the service of Krishna, then our mind, intelligence will not be covered by lust. For example, if we see Krishna's beautiful deities and are able to see Krishna in every living entity, that is, water being, every bird, in every plant and trees, and in every four-legged animals, then we are Krishna conscious, which means that we are fully aware that Krishna is residing in the heart of every living entity. And by constant practice of this, the mind of the living entity will be always absorbed and satisfied in Krishna, and then lust will not be able to capture the intelligence. This is very important shloka for each one of us because we have got this rare human life after 84 lakhs of species, and we should not waste this rare and most valuable human life in sense enjoyment. Rather, let us make the best use of this valuable human birth for self-realization and God realization. And this way, we can come out of the endless cycle of birth and death, which is so painful. So, in this verse, Krishna has told us where our enemy lives. And now, in the next shlok, Krishna will tell us how to conquer this dangerous enemy, lust. I thank everyone for listening to the Bhagavad Gita shloks very minutely and attentively. And I thank Srila Prabhupada for making us understand the most secretive knowledge of Bhagavad Gita in the most easy and simple manner. In today's shlok, Krishna has clearly told us that the senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this eternal enemy lust, and it veils the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Now, in the next verse, Krishna is going to tell us how we can conquer this eternal enemy lust. Please be connected with me, and if you have any questions, then do write in the comment box. Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Anant Koti Vaishnavon ki Jai. Hare Krishna.